for joining us again.
When you want.
Yeah.
We are ready and the microphone are already there. I will give to you.
Sure. That sounds great. This is perfect number of people. I printed out the right number of papers. Right. This is great. Maybe we can have some conversation, but just you. Yeah. All right. No. All right. I hope so. Who's a little jet lagged? Who slept 2 hours last night? So, just given, it's great to use mics in these small rooms so that anybody online who's interested in learning about what we do here can hear and tune in. Do you want to try to keep this more informal and really try to surface expertise from folks in the room? The purpose of this workshop will be to examine some scientific articles that have resulted in many misinfodemics, that have had a lot of misinformation around them. I've avoided using the autism and vaccine study just because we've all known about it, we've all read about it. But instead, there's a couple of other examples that I have of articles that have led to widespread misinformation, particularly in the US and Canada. So hopefully that will be a new experience for those in the room who are not from the US and Canada. And then I tried to diversify the studies that we'll be looking at today. So in general, the purpose of this workshop will be to understand and through a mini exercise how easy it is to create poor quality or misinformation from existing studies just using their abstract, which is what the majority of the population will have access to. And that'll be our first stage. I will reveal the workshop activity as the hour goes on, just to keep some surprise here. But the final exercise that we'll do as a group is try to come up with what the metadata categories would be for an abstract that's accessible to journalists. So the movement that's happening in some open source and some closed scientific literature right now is an understanding that through the web, anybody can access an abstract. Not everybody can access a full article. And one of the challenges there is that the scientists don't often drive the widespread narrative of the articles that they produce, which is obviously a problem. But in many cases, scientists aren't trained in communications or science communications, so it's difficult to request or expect that of scientists. There's one academic journal, the Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, that is now requesting that each scientist that submits an article also submit a tweet-sized summary of their piece to try to help them drive the narrative on Twitter. But this is not common and this is not widespread. I've tried my own mini experiment of summarizing scientific articles on Instagram using emojis and small descriptions. But the goal is to think creatively of what it would look like to have an abstract that's useful for journalists, what the categories would be that would be helpful. One example of a category that I thought would be helpful and have implemented in this mini Instagram project is, do I change anything about my life based on this article? Why? N. Simple. But to think about as you go through these articles, what information can you pull out that's really important to you as a journalist? And then at the end of this workshop, I'm thankful that it'll be recorded. I am going to be producing, and if anybody's interested in participating, just a short blog post about what the findings here are. So hopefully we can circulate it to some of the journals that we're closely connected with and see if there's some kind of an innovative journalism targeted abstract project that we can pursue as a result of this workshop. So the goal is to keep this a working workshop. I'm going to stop talking really soon, and I'll guide you through the exercise. Please feel free to have fun and be creative. And we'll do a couple of sharebacks over the course of the hour. And then at the end, if there's any outstanding questions about the exercise, we can take it from there. Everybody good to go to start? Everybody does anyone not have a pen? Or paper? We've got a little bit of paper just in case you need. But if everybody can take out, a pen, and we actually have slightly more people than I anticipated in this workshop, which is great. What I've got are 4 scientific studies. They are related to a variety of different topics. The first is virus pathogens on surfaces at airports. The second is the type of underwear worn by men and testicular function and fertility. The third is fluoride neurotoxicity and fluoridation of water. And the fourth is alcohol consumption and risk of dementia. So these are 4 research papers that have been published that have led to a variety of narratives and frames and coverage in the media. And what our first exercise will be is, depending which of these studies you're most interested in working on, we'll hand out these studies. They're also available online in full PDF, so you can access those. And what we'll do is, just looking at the abstract, we need individuals to form into groups depending on what study you're interested in, and create 1 to 2, 5 sentences, depending on the platform you're looking at, of the most exaggerated misinformation claims and campaign that you possibly can, just looking at the abstract. So we'll get into groups. Let's have anybody who's interested in working on virus pathogens at the airport at the front over here. We'll have anybody interested in fertility and underwear worn over here. We'll have anybody interested in water fluoridation and neurotoxicity. Yeah? All right. This one's led to some policies, so it's quite interesting. And we've got alcohol consumption and dementia at the back. So please cluster. Thank you. Please cluster. Feel free to move the chairs around within these groups. Which one? Pathogens at the airport. Come on. Taking a plate. All right. And for each group, quickly before you dive into the activity, super quickly before we dive in, we'll give us 10 minutes for this first exercise. And I want you to design the misinformation smear campaigns, 1 message or set of key terms for Instagram, 1 for Facebook, and 1 for Twitter. We're going to keep it with the big 3. I apologize, we're not using other platforms for this, but just the abstract. Do not dive into the rest of the article, and we'll reconvene in 10 minutes.
And of course, the crucial bit of information is hidden on page 5 of 7.
Oh, you read to study further. You read further.
I'm a fact checker, so.
I'll put a study has shown that you are at risk of a deadly virus each time you go through airport security. I've got that one.
Yeah, or no, not study, just scientists warn.
And then the next one I put scientists prove
Yeah,
that
or
children's
warn.
playgrounds are a breeding ground for most viruses. Okay, scientists warn. Okay, scientists warn.
Yeah, make it sound more ominous.
Scientists warn. Prove and warn are the same thing.
Then traveling can also.
And traveling will kill you.
Yeah.
That you are at risk of dying when you travel.
Higher risk of getting killed by a virus than by a plane crash.
Oh no! Oh, yes! That's,
You are more likely to die from a virus at the airport than a plane crash.
that is like horrible.
That's like it would be viral, you know.
Yeah, but I
No,
don't
I
know.
picked
That's a good one, but I don't even want to write it down. You can say that one. Okay, one more. Can you tell me one more?
The hidden dangers in airport. The most.
Stop worrying about terrorists and security checkpoints.
Worry
Start
about
worrying about
viruses.
viruses.
I actually like this one. Yeah.
I'm elbow deep in this shit all day long, so.
Just as we're waiting here, I know that everybody's really engrossed in their campaigns. Make sure that on these sheets of paper, you write the Facebook message, the Instagram message, and the Twitter. I will pass out a piece of paper and make sure those three are clearly listed. I'll give everybody another 6 minutes of working on it, and then we'll move to the next phase together.
So tweet, Facebook, and Instagram. So we need a nice image to go with it too. Like a biohazard sign or something like that.
Biohazards at airports.
6. Now 5.
So for Facebook, it's a bit longer. Yes.
Are you carrying a pickup mic? No. Deadly virus lurking in airports.
So what was the Facebook one? This one. That's the one that you are at risk of deadly.
Hello? I think it works. Does it work? Yes.
Deadly virus more to the front. Study shows deadly virus might kill you every time. Yeah, or something like that.
Showing a deadly virus.
You have to put the important words near the front. Scary words. Or for the mummy pages, make sure your family wears gloves next time you go to the airport. Here's why.
One with the scientist?
Yeah, what was that one you said? No, but there was one you said about airplanes and
Terrorists.
Forget about terrorists. Viruses will
more likely to kill you at an airport.
yeah. Forget the terrorists.
All right, we've got another 3 minutes. Make sure you write out those 3 items. We've got another 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Because none of these viruses need to be deadly in reality. Yeah, you get a bit ill,
And Instagram is the one
with a picture.
So the Instagram one was, what was it? The one about, I don't really want to say the one about airplanes, which is really horrible.
Like an airport security metal detector with the biohazard sign in red flashing lights.
And the Instagram page would be die in an airport. Going through an airport can kill you.
Going through airport security can kill you.
Yes, because the security should be secure, but that can actually kill you. Yeah.
How to avoid dying when going through airport security?
Good too.
How to avoid dying from a viral infection when going through airport security?
How to avoid dying in
Dying, yeah.
and the airport security.
All right, we've got 1 more minute. Make sure you write those. Make sure you write those phrases or tweets on that sheet of paper that I handed out.
Dangers at the airport. That's another good one.
Yeah, and people like lists. 10 top. 10 top ways of dying.
All right. Does anybody need more time? Hand up.
The top 10 ways of dying at an airport.
All right. 30 seconds.
Well, or hidden dangers lurking at the airport. How to avoid hidden dangers lurking at the airport.
How do you say hello? You won't believe the first one.
All right. Let's close out part 1. Middle group, feel free to keep writing while I explain part 2. What I'd like you to do is put in a pile that sheet of paper and the scientific studies that you researched for that piece underneath it, and I need you to pass it to the team clockwise from you, which is this way. Clockwise. So airport group, pass it to fluoride group, pass it to alcohol group. The paper and the paper that you wrote and the scientific articles. The whole package. And you should receive a new package.
Yeah. Thank you. Underwear. Yay.
There may have only been 1 copy of some articles. All right. Your next task is you now have the full scientific article. And on those 3 platforms, with a target population that you'll emphasize at the bottom of that sheet, your role is to review as much of that scientific article in 15 minutes as possible to address some of the concerns that were made in that misinformation campaign. You're trying to stop the misinformation campaign that the previous group created. And you have the full paper to do it in 15 minutes, which is a usual journalist deadline cycle. So. There may just be one. Let me open my computer so you have another one.
Let me read the abstract.
Those posts exist. Choose your tactic, whatever you think is the right method of addressing these topics. Let me clarify that. Hey, just for a quick clarification. Just for a quick clarification for anybody who's a bit confused about that, thanks for the heads up. We're assuming that the first group's reposts on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook exist. However you choose to address it in those media, on Instagram, on Twitter, and on Facebook, imagine yourselves as a group of health reporters that have seen these. Your job isn't to debunk it necessarily, but you're putting another post into those same platforms. But you have access to the full study and you're trying to communicate correct information. You can choose to debunk it if that's your strategy. You can choose to present quality information if that's your strategy. You can directly reference that tweet or that Instagram post if that's your strategy, but you just have access to the full article and you're trying to address the problem.
Can I see the tweets and
I think yes. I don't know any other word that
yeah, marble wouldn't fit in the
yeah.
sentence.
Wait, like, do you wear boxers?
You want to start working against this?
Manly. This is very easy to debunk, not what the study says.
If your boyfriend does not wear boxers, don't judge his decisions on
You might need to find a new mate. What if we don't want children?
Stop the shaming of the non-boxer wearing guys. Should we address the message or just put a new message out?
Yeah, no, if I see this in my daily work, I would say this is misleading because it was a study done only on men seeking treatment at a fertility clinic, so
it's a specific sample.
Yeah.
So they're more likely to
if
be
you say
pregnant.
men who visit a fertility clinic and wear boxers, blah 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 blah. And more manly, yeah, no, not really. Not what the study says, not what the study investigated. I would do a Control F on this paper and then write something. The word manly does not even occur in the paper.
Exactly. Analysis.
Shocking news. A new study shows there is no connection between manliness and the type of underwear you wear.
Well, there might, but that's not what this study says.
Not this study particularly.
So usually on our website we invert the headline, so study did not say blah blah blah. Men who wear boxers are more fertile, study shows. We will say study does not show blah blah blah.
So a study debunks the claims that that boxers make you more fertile.
No, study does not say this headline says. That's basically.
Debunks claim that boxers make you more fertile.
Well, no, it doesn't debunk it or prove it. It doesn't. I mean, I just generally debunk the part that says study shows. No, the study does not show that. It might still be true or not. I don't know. I'm not a scientist, but this paper does not say what you claim it says.
Before switching to boxers, you should know that the study does not necessarily show that men who use boxers are more fertile.
So this one actually, the study basically says, actually, it is not sensationalist, that wearing loose boxer shorts increases your sperm count, your sperm production.
But only for men in the fertility clinics.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, so that claim is not accurate. It's a specific sample.
So all you can draw conclusions about is men seeking treatment at fertility centers
Should wear loose boxer shorts.
Yeah, well, not maybe should, but yeah.
Sorry?
That's what the study is talking about. All this stuff about more manly and men in general,
No.
you can't draw those conclusions.
So basically it says men, I don't know how to do this in long language, but basically men who are looking to planning a family, the men should wear loose boxer shorts.
Well,
Because we're targeting a specific population.
If you're a man
If you're planning,
at a fertility clinic, maybe wear boxers.
yeah, if you're
But
planning,
ask your doctor.
if you're planning a family, then men you should wear boxer shorts.
that's not exact. If you're already having fertility problems and you're going to a fertility clinic, then, but it doesn't necessarily mean. Well, yeah.
I think generally, if you're planning.
Well, I've worn both, and I have 4 children, so I don't know. But yes,
You're outside.
Anecdotes are not.
You're an
data.
outlier.
Anecdotes are not data.
Yes, I know. Exactly, they're not. Or
Because that
couple,
would mean-
or basically couples seeking fertility treatment. Okay, couples. Would I say couples?
And it doesn't. Does it say that they're less fertile or they have?
No, sperm production.
Yeah,
Let's
but
not say fertility. Let's say sperm
it's
production.
sperm
Production.
because it's also sperm concentration. So it might just be that you're producing the same amount of sperm cells but less fluid or whatever you call
What was it? It said.
the rest of the sperm.
Is it that current demand those who
Boxers have higher sperm concentration and total sperm count too.
So it would be like
no other markers of testicular function such as serum reproductive hormones. Okay, so, but it doesn't say that, yeah, so that, although it says you have higher sperm concentration and sperm count, there is no evidence of its ability on reproductive hormones. So even though you might have a higher sperm concentration and sperm count, doesn't necessarily mean that you will conceive when you have a baby.
All you
So
need
there's
is
no
one sperm cell that gets lucky.
Yes, so there's no evidence that helps your ability. It's just about your production and count.
so what should we write? We should write something, right?
Okay, so what do you write?
And also it's only based on, yeah.
So you can write that. You can write that.
Should I write it like a reply here or?
I mean, we'll use the word study. Study shown that for couples seeking fertility treatment, wearing loose underwear increases. Sorry.
That if you're a male seeking.
No, so a study shows that couples seeking fertility treatment, for couples seeking fertility treatment,
All right.
wearing boxers.
So, I know it's been a challenge, and I know there was a time constraint, and that's part of the interesting test of the exercise. Thank you so much. So, what we're going to do now is I'm going to pass this mic around. All right. I am going to pass this mic around, and it would be great if each group could share the first 3 misinformation-infused statements that were shared that were written by another group, as well as share your response. And then if you can talk a little bit about your experience in addressing the misinformation with a focus on four kind of guiding questions, but feel free to share anything you'd like the rest of the group to know. The guiding questions are super broad. What were some of the key issues that emerged when you were trying to create one uniform message from an article? Who was your target audience? Did they belong to a specific country? What did the English language limitation mean for you? What were you looking for in the article to help you address the misinformation, and did you find it? So these are just some guiding questions, but I'll pass the mic around. Each group just share some of the challenges, and then we'll get into a final exercise together after that. I'd like to start with what was the airport group, and we'll again pass this around your clockwise. I hope it's all right if I take
Yeah, we looked. Is this? Yeah, test 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we looked at. Does the study actually say that what the social media posts are saying? So the Twitter posts, men who wear boxers are more fertile. Study shows men who don't wear boxers could be less fertile, according to 2018 study. If you wear boxers as a man, new study says you're more infertile, yeah, or fertile. And then on Facebook, do you wear boxers? Good news, new study shows men who wear boxers are more manly. If your boyfriend does not wear boxers, you might need to find a new mate, new study shows. And then on Instagram, a photo of a man in boxers, but there's no message there, maybe. But yeah, I guess you could get likes with a man in boxers on Instagram. Yeah. But yeah, the key message usually is no, study does not say that. And then maybe summarize what it does say. Because very often with these misleading studies, also with these headlines, it was not about being manly or not, and it was not about all men, because the summary of the study says it was only done on men at a fertility center, so that's already a very specific type of men. So they're looking to get examined for fertility and stuff, and maybe they have problems. So that right there skews the sample and makes drawing conclusions for all men based on just these results impossible. So we should also avoid by directly contradicting the claim. I mean, it could very well be that wearing boxers or briefs or shorts or whatever or nothing could have an impact on fertility in all men, but that's just not what is in this study. So there might be another paper, but we're just journalists and fact checkers. We don't have all those other papers. We're not doctors. Yeah. So we cannot make any conclusions about that, but we can say, no, this paper does not say that.
Okay. All right, let's pass it on to the group that now, which is clockwise, yeah, the group that now is doing airport germs.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Okay, the misinformation said, Facebook, a study has shown that deadly virus can kill you every time you pass through the airport. And then everyone likes a list article, the top 10 ways of dying at the airport. I'd do top 3, but yeah. Twitter, forget about, yeah, like you're going to drop dead the second your hand touches the thing. Twitter, forget about terrorists, viruses are more likely to kill you at the airport. And Instagram, going through airport security can kill you. How to avoid dying at airport security. So the challenges we found when refuting this was firstly the decision of whether or not we actually refer to the misinformation campaign directly or whether we just present the actual data in the paper, which clearly doesn't say that. And it was, so it was kind of like, do we attack them or do we just write what's true in a kind of nice, neutral way? And we kind of decided not to attack them because you're trying not to polarize people. And if someone's already decided that they believe the misinformation, you don't want to be kind of seen to be aggressive against it because you're, you know, that kind of thing of entrenched beliefs. So we went with just kind of explaining the reality of it from the paper, which was basically that, yes, there are germs at airports, but they're not deadly germs. And what it says is if there was a deadly germ, if one was to exist, then airports would spread them. But it was an if. So we said, there are germs everywhere, still alive, then airport security won't kill you. And then we even thought about doing a poll, so like still alive, yes, no. Yeah. then you're not going to die now. Yeah. Yeah, and then downplaying it on Instagram, how to avoid dying at airport security, just wash your hands. Which again, we weren't sure about because that's not really true because that suggests if you don't wash your hands, then you'll die. So we realized that actually meant we'd moved into untruth ourselves accidentally. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, let's keep, for the interest of time, well, if you can answer part of those questions, feel free, but just review some high-level insights, and do share the original misinformation on what you've heard. The former alcohol consumption and dementia group.
Oh, okay. So the Instagram post that was created was an image of a baby in a sink with running tap water and then hashtags parenting, brain damage, cute babies, family care. And then drinking water can damage your baby's brain, scientists show. Okay? So we countered it with debunking, saying false. So we had a verdict, that was our strategy, saying drinking water doesn't cause damage to your baby's brain. Fluoride is the problem, so just putting it in that it's the fluoride and not the water. And so on Facebook, the claim was, or the post, the misinformation was, multiple international studies show that fluoride in drinking water reduces your infant's IQ. Governments are doing this linked to an abstract. So we obviously said that the claim that governments are poisoning drinking water is unfounded, and then with a link to the actual abstract showing that that's not the case. And on Twitter, so there was a long thread. Whose was this? Okay, so a long thread explaining causality. Or oh, okay. Okay. Oh, okay. So, and then the hashtags were brain damage, new mom, science, and health. And so our approach was to say five facts about neurotoxicity and drinking water. So countering it by giving like the 5 scientific. Yeah. So that was us.
Okay, so this was about drinking and dementia. Did you know the more you drink, the less likely you are to get dementia? Hashtag stop dementia, hashtag drink up. I love it. So much like the other groups, I think that the facts were not there to support that. We struggled with how to really make it something that would capture someone's attention if we went after the debunk, because we really felt like we needed to, I think, in a way, debunk that and be clear with people, because the study did not necessarily show generalizability to all of these different groups. I like the ideas of the top, you know, these are the things that drinking or not drinking may, you know, benefit you, and I think maybe showing the benefit. Now that I'm saying it, we hadn't talked about that as a group, but.
I say for potentially, lazy journalists who don't want to do what we've just done and read the findings in detail, just literally at the end, concluding paragraph, the overall findings of the study was X, Y, Z.
I just want to say this because I think it's important. In the fluoride study, the statistics needs to be explained in a better way, because actually fluoride is not bad for people, and I feel like this was even misunderstood. You know what I mean? Like the way, especially in that article, the way it is presented, the inverse correlation and everything is explained in a way that, if you don't have a PhD, you don't understand that. This is really wrong.
1 minute.
Yeah, so it's contextualizing it, but the problem with academic writing is that they're specifically told not to contextualize it. Like, they can only say about the thing that they're writing about. What we want to see is them saying compared to levels you find in day-to-day life, but that's not how they write that kind of thing. It's like, they're not supposed to contextualize, which is a problem.
Last week came and then,
I think one thing is, limiting limitations. Sometimes the limitations of a study is not specifically addressed, particularly if it could be misleading or could potentially misinform people. Another one is the sample size, and every research will always mention that there's a need for more studies in this area. So, for example, in the dementia one, it was set in London. It was all of the samples were in London, so it could be different in Lagos. It could be different anywhere else. So that needs to be mentioned too.
Who can generalize the results?